Welcome to the Soul Driven Podcast. I believe that when we invest in ourselves, the world benefits. If you are searching for meaning and purpose, if you are unsure about how to combine the spiritual with the everyday, if you are ready to uncover who you truly are, then you've come to the right place. The Soul Driven Podcast is dedicated to exploring the intersection of living a soulful and spiritual life in a driven and ambitious world. Join me for practical guidance, truthful discussions, and interviews with people who are successfully living a soul-driven life. My name is Anna Hendricks, spiritual guide, marketer, and your host. Thank you for being here. Welcome back, folks, for another monthly Akashic Record Lesson. I love doing these monthly lessons. They're readings, they're forecasts, they're, themes for the month ahead. And you'll have to excuse me because, of course, my neighbor has decided to do all kinds of construction work on the day that I want to record this podcast. So hopefully you'll barely hear it, but in the event that you do, you can just ignore it. Okay. All right. So August, what the heck? Every month I find myself in disbelief. And I think it's just what blows my mind the most is the speed at which time is moving now. When I was a young girl, I always heard that time moves faster when you get older. And I saw this play out when I went to camp, summer camp, the very first time, away from my family for a whole week. And I remember that week lasted forever. I had such a wonderful time. I enjoyed it. I was not sad, but it lasted forever. And the next year when I went back, it flew by. And I was just like, what the heck? This was not like last year. How did a whole week go by already? And I was just like, whoa, that's what these adults are talking about. And I got it. And it's kind of crazy because now that I'm in my later 30s and I'm looking back on my life, it's just like, time is really picking up pace. And it's not just because I'm getting older. Truly, time is changing. Our perception of time is changing. All things are changing and have picked up speed incrementally. So you are not alone if you're like, where did July go? But if you're like me, you're really happy to say goodbye to July. So I guess kind of first, I would love to know what July was like for you. We're going to jump back and kind of discuss July's Akashic reading here in just a minute, but I'm curious to know if July was a good month for you. I know in my Patreon community, the Soul Driven Collective, that we've really been talking about going through difficult times and being transparent about it. And yeah, I'm far from the only one who's had it rough this month. And I have to tell you, it's been rougher this month than it's been, a couple of years probably. It's been a tough one, which is pretty interesting considering when I channeled through the message for July, and I knew the astrology was going to be very intense. And of course, I talked about that in July's episode. If you haven't taken a listen to July, I highly recommend checking it out, listening to the reading for July. And we always have the monthly readings written out verbatim on the website. So if you're someone who just kind of wants to read through it, or maybe wants to read through it while you listen, it's there for you. I'm a very visual person, so I love having both. It's just the way my brain works. But I remember thinking, oh my gosh, the astrology is going to be intense for July. And then the reading coming through and just thinking, the reading was one of the most straightforward that I've had, I think, on this podcast since I've started doing monthly readings. And it was, the theme of togetherness was just very straightforward in regards to relationships being a big focal point for the month of July. And I remember I was a bit confused because it didn't really seem to mesh. But of course, it came through to me. I got the download. I understood how those two worked together so well in regards to us really focusing on nourishing our relationships with ourselves and with each other in the midst of July and being kind. And I don't know about you, but it was a tough month. It was a really tough month. And I was looking back at just the reading itself and some of the notes, and I was just thinking like, man, I channel through these readings so that you have something that you can check out throughout the month to kind of get recentered in regards to what it is maybe you're feeling or going through, and help to find some grounding in the midst of all of that. So, of course, with the reading that I'll be channeling through for August, I highly recommend doing that, checking back in. And to be honest with you, it's something that I even need to do a lot more. I also do weekly forecasts for myself, just the beginning of the week. I'm like, all right, what do I need to know for the week ahead? What do I need to know starting out? It just helps me. Plus, I love connecting with the records at the very beginning of my week. But I so often just get caught up in life and get caught up in the speed, and I don't go back to glean what it is that has been given to me. And so if you haven't done this and you've enjoyed these, then again, I highly recommend it. Some of the, some of the things we talked about in last month's reading were how to find togetherness with those who aren't easy to love. And hopefully that's going to stop in just a second. How to be more understanding, kind, and let go. And again, for me, finding togetherness with those who aren't easy to love, that was a really very difficult one for me. I dealt with more sort of opposition from others in my life this month. I don't even remember the last time I did. I'm someone who stays out of drama. I'm someone who's particular about, my friends, my circle, and just the nature of the way that my life has been changing over the last couple of years. That circle has gotten very small. And so there's minimal opportunity for kind of like chaos or drama or issues. But it came out of freaking everywhere this year. Or this month. It was just like, what is happening? And I had a couple of days where I was totally shaking my fist at, the universe and being like, F you, which, might sound horrific to some. But it was just where I was at because it felt like the whole world was coming against me. It felt like everyone was turning on me. And I didn't understand what was going on. And I think it's totally okay to let the universe know how we really feel. If you're like me and you grew up in the Christian church, then that's like all out blasphemy. But the truth is that like the universe, like we're not hiding anything by not saying it. They know how we really feel. So we might as well express it because like that's healthy for us. And I did. I expressed it and I let it out and I screamed and I yelled and I cried. I cried so much. And I'm finally starting to get some understanding in regards to what it is that's going on and why things have just like all out fallen apart this month in so many different ways. So if this is you and this is what you've been going through, I'm here for you. Reach out to me. You are not alone. Again, we've been talking about this in the collective and it's been so nice One of the reasons I started the collective is for these purposes, because we need people that can help us when we're going through these times, that can help recenter us, get us grounded, get us refocused, lean on. Maybe just someone who's there to just hear us like bitch and scream, and that is okay. Doesn't always need to be a solution, but just to know that someone is there and in your corner. So, if you haven't checked out my Patreon community, please do so. There's a link in the show notes. And yes, so getting into today's Akashic reading, Akashic Record reading. If you are new and haven't heard about the Akashic Records before, welcome, welcome, welcome. I love sharing the records with everyone. In fact, I am recording this on a day I'm going to be teaching a workshop this evening on how to access the records, and I'm very excited about it. I guess I should share with you that if you are interested in learning how to read the Akashic Records, I'm going to be teaching a course this fall. It will be online, and if you are interested in that, shoot me an email, souldrivenpodcast@gmail.com. Of course, there's no obligation, but that will ensure that you are on the list that will receive all the updates as they come out. And of course, I'll be sharing them with you. But anyway, if you aren't familiar with the Akashic Records, I recorded a whole bonus episode about the Akashic Records. I will be sure to link that out in the show notes as well, so you can really spend some time just learning a bit more about them if you'd like to. But for today's purposes, when I channel through these monthly readings, I do so for the audience of the Soul Driven podcast. So whether you're brand new or you've been listening since March 2020, it's for you. And regardless of when you come to this, it is for you. Time doesn't exist outside of this planet. Time is a human construct. And so every time that we go to the Akashic Records, we find something new and beautiful there for us that is just as alive and relevant as if we were there the very first time. So even if you come to this reading in December or next year or whenever the case may be, not to worry. Akashic Records are always alive and vibrant for you. So I channel through the Akashic Record reading. I just open the records, I see what comes through, I share it with you. I will be sharing that message and then returning on the other side to talk about integration, to talk about maybe some high points, and to pull a card for the month. We'll talk a bit about astrology, because astrology for August is, again, insane. Although I think this month is going to be a bit kinder in some respects. We do have the Lion's Gate and a new moon on the Lion's Gate. The Lion's Gate is August 8th. And I have to tell you, last year's Lion's Gate hit me harder than any other sort of planetary alignment had ever hit me before. I think it was my first real brush with astrological energy in that type of a way. It was just, it blew open my world, and I know it's going, this one's gonna be huge. But we'll talk about that a little bit more. I'm also going to be linking out and sharing some other podcasts that go deeper on it that I've really enjoyed, if you want to check those out, if that's of interest to you. I've been studying astrology since I was a kid, but I am, it's not what I do full time. So there's some people that I really enjoy listening to for that information. I always suggest to folks, in regards to listening to the Akashic Records, go sit down, be by yourself somewhere where you won't be interrupted, put on headphones, just really allow the reading to flow through you. Don't feel the need to grasp everything or to make sense of it. When the reading is over, jot down a couple of things that really stood out for you, and then let it sit. come back in a couple of days, maybe a week or two, see what else is here for you. But just really sit with what comes through initially and allow that to integrate into you. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, I honestly just kind of want to jump in. I'm really curious about what the records are going to channel through. So, I will see you on the other side. Rumbling forward, this month will be like a tidal wave that hits you. It will crash and burn. It will leave many pieces unsettled and laying about. It will bring to surface that which has always been there, but that needs to be brought up so that you might see what it is that has always been lurking beneath the surface. For you all are so hurried and rushed. You go about your doings, driving quickly, bypassing so much of life that you forget the very experience of living life is just that. It is the experience that makes life worth living in the first place. But all of your speed and constant readiness is falling apart. It doesn't feel the same way that it used to. For you have begun to awaken. These small parts of you know that you will never satiate yourself, going about doing what it is that you had done before. And this month, well, it's going to show you just how much you can't keep going about doing what you have done before. This month will bring a tidal wave of energy so strong, you won't know what it is that hit you. For it will make rise to the surface all that you have tried so hard to look away from. It will break apart what doesn't serve. It will separate, distance, and allow you to see things very clearly for the first time in a while. This isn't a time for jokes and games. Although we wish that those things would become more of a central piece in your life, no. It is a time for becoming aware of what it is the universe is trying to share with you, what it is that is being siphoned through, that you have been turning your cheek to, looking the other way. This energy isn't about forgiveness. It isn't about the soft, gentle waves. No. It's about taking root, taking hold of that which is meant for you. That which your soul cries out for. And yet you keep from it, going about your day-to-day. Because here's the truth. If you aren't listening in these times, then it's only going to get rougher for you. Then the fine edges will begin unraveling themselves. And soon you will have no choice. For much is coming as we head into the end of this year. Truly, it is a birthing cycle. And while birth is beautiful on the other side, in the midst of it, it brings pain because it is real. Sit in this realness. Do not allow yourselves to run away, to get lost in all the ways in which you like to distract yourself from your feelings, emotions. For there is so much wisdom that you have been bypassing. Life has so many gifts for you. You cannot even imagine. The universe simply wishes to pour riches upon you. Abundance like you have never seen before. But unless you take the time to open your eyes, to break open wide your heart, you will miss it. For the blessings of life must be chosen. We do our part as much as it's possible. But know that you are steering your ship. You are guiding your way. You are determining what path it is you want to walk. And therefore, and always, you are fully responsible for your experience. Paint a beautiful picture, something majestic, artful, that is full of sunshine, space, anything that you might dream of. Or paint a picture of deceit, one that is laden with fear, one that gets caught up in the rigmarole of everything happening around it. Take heart, dear friends. This is not your undoing, but only your true beginning for this month and ushered through the Lion's Gate. You will get a sense of exactly what that life could be. All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. So, as I mentioned before the reading, one of the things I always suggest, whether to my clients or the collective, when sharing these recordings earlier, before the end of the month, is to sit with it. And after hearing it the first time, jot down a couple of notes about what really stood out for you. Give it about, 3 to 4 days and then come back, see what else is here. Or something I really enjoy doing is coming back and listening to it at like the beginning of every week throughout the month, just to kind of get reoriented with the energy, with what we're being asked to do for the month, with some of the themes that are going on. And it's really helpful to just kind of stay on track. If you're someone who kind of likes forecasts, which I'm a huge fan, then it's a great way to, again, just get reoriented with what it is that's going on. So I'm very curious to hear what you thought of this reading, what your impression of it was, what really stuck out to you. Make sure you share your experience with me. I'm very curious to know. When this first came through for me, it felt like very strong, big energy moving through my body. I had a lot of visuals around just water, and it kind of took me back to when I did the 2020 forecast with Sarah Elise, the astrologer, or 2021, at the end of 2020. And I had gone into the records 3 different times to kind of channel through a message, and water was one of those huge themes for this year. And when I saw all of this water, what I really felt was like a deep cleansing. I mean, we've had literal, floods, waves, all kinds of things all over the world. It's certainly happening. And while I felt a bit of that in the midst of this reading, what I really felt was like the cleansing qualities of water, purifying. And I also felt the fire. I mean, I really, really, really felt the fire. It was kind of surprising to me, honestly, because while I know that there's some intense astrology for the month ahead, and it was funny because one of my clients was like, so are we ever going to get a break with the astrology? And I was like, no, not really. We'll get like dips here and there. But like when you look at like a month overall, it's going to be pretty intense because we are undoing right now. What the records channeled through for 2020 was that it was the shakeup. 2021 is just the beginning, and we are just beginning. And I have to tell you, August is like that set off month. Major beginnings are going to be coming through this month. I mean, we are really, really going to be given the opportunity to lay the groundwork for what it is that we dream about in this month. And at the same time, we are really going to be asked to walk away from what does not serve anymore. It's going to become so crystal clear, we aren't going to even have the option. And so by the time we get through this month, and of course I'm speaking very generally right now, we're going to be looking back and being like, whoa, I was kind of a different person back in July. my life was like different. Like massive change is going to take place this month. And I hope that no matter how this reading resonated with you or what it is that I'm sharing resonates with you, if you feel triggered in any way, I invite you to sit with that, to ask yourself, why you feel triggered, where that fear is coming from, maybe that instability, that like concern, you know what I mean? Just really sit with that. The reason that I love forecasts so much is because, like, if I have a little bit of a clue about what's coming up, then I can make decisions ahead of time and I can act from an empowered place. I've said that so many times on this podcast. If you are a regular listener, I'm sure you've heard it before, but that is always what I invite listeners to do, clients to do when I'm sharing intense information, or what might be perceived as intense. Because, yes, on the onset, we might be like, whoa, crash and burn. This month, literally the first line is like, this month will be like a tidal wave that hits you. And when I was channeling that through, I was just like, oh my gosh, here it comes. But there's a lot of real beauty in this message, and I want to kind of break it down like I do every month. Grab a drink of water here. Because there were just some really beautiful highlights. And for those who don't know, we do provide the transcript of the reading on my website. You'll find that link in the show notes. So if you're someone who likes to read while you're listening or after you listen, whatever the case may be, I'm a very visual person. I enjoy that. So, okay. Our theme for this month is tidal wave. And make no mistake about it, when you think about a tidal wave, think about the fact that there's always something that like comes before it, right? That sets it off. It's not just like tidal waves just happen for no particular reason. Like there's always a reason why they happen. And when they come in and they crash, and yes, of course, if there's homes and businesses and these kinds of things, but what they really do is cleanse. And they provide a new beginning. They come in and take what doesn't need to be there, really, and get rid of it, and then it leaves because it's done its job and it's out of here. And then it's up to us to make a decision about how it is that we want to deal with what's left over. And of course, whenever I think about a tidal wave, first of all, it scares the crap out of me. Second of all, I think about, all the things that people lose in the midst of a tidal wave. But I, then like think about like what might happen on an island where like there aren't all these homes and these kinds of things, like how a tidal wave might serve that piece of land, that, you know what I mean? How it might serve the environment, serve what it is that's happening. Because nothing on this planet happens by chance. It just doesn't work that way. And I guess I shouldn't say by chance, because that kind of leaves it out a little bit too far. But nothing happens that isn't for our benefit. So if a tidal wave is coming in, then there's a reason for it to be coming in. I thought it was interesting that it talked about bringing everything to the surface, that needs to be brought up, that is lurking here. And then it kind of jumped right into talking about how hurried and rushed we are. I'm pretty sure it was last month that I was talking about how blown away I am that we have all tried to just jump right back into our pre-pandemic life, racing around town. I got things to do. I am busy. Sorry I couldn't get back to you. I got this and this going on. I'm like racing around town with my kids going to 10 different things. Like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like working all the time. I'm like this. I'm like that. We've all done that. And this isn't about shame or anything like that. It's just like, it's really fascinating to me how quick we've done that. And I think what I've noticed, certainly within myself, is it doesn't feel the same and it doesn't work like it used to. I'm really uncomfortable saying, like, I've been busy. It doesn't feel good to me. It's like, I don't know, going at like these super fast speeds. Like, I keep finding myself going throughout my day looking for like extra pockets of time, places where I can slow down, places where I can kind of get back to that, like, for a while in 2020, it was like things were so quiet. And I live downtown and things are never quiet. But it was quiet during the pandemic for a couple of months. And it's like I keep trying to go back to that. I keep trying to get back to that space. And I think that the majority of us are. I think a lot of us saw things during that time. We experienced things during that time. And as soon as we were given the opportunity, we ran out of the house. We booked the trips, we did the things, we packed our schedules again. We make sure the kids have all the activities. We're on our phones, we're doing the things. And I think in so many different ways, like, it's not working. It's not serving. Because we've started to wake up. We started to realize that there's more to life. And we want to live in a different way. There's so much discussion right now about the lack of workers, right? And what is going on right now. And there's a lot of discussion about, like, oh, because the government's handing out money, people don't want to work. And I mean, there's a lot of research out there that shows that in the states who have cut all of that off, their unemployment rates are like way higher than the states that actually still have government money coming in. I hope I said that correctly because I get things turned around all the time, meaning that in those states, there are even more people who are not working versus in the states where government is still helping out. I'm not going to say that I don't think that there's a percentage of the population that might be doing that, sure. But I also think that there's even a larger percent of the population that is tired of working really hard for very little money and not being appreciated, being treated like crap. This is happening in a lot of these service jobs, right? Restaurants, retail, places where, like, people work full time and have, like, crappy benefits. People who will, like, be like scheduled out to work right up to full time, but not right there and not given benefits. People who are still making, like, barely able to get by and being treated like crap and being like, it's not serving anymore. People aren't putting up with it anymore. And we're in this huge shift. I mean, I know that over the next couple of years, we're going to see so much change within the jobs community, like the way that businesses are ran, the way that corporations are ran. I mean, like, it's shifting into a time where employees are the ones who actually have the power. And I'm all about balance. I think that there needs to be balance in any situation. So it's not like I'm for, against, whatever. It's just like, this is what I'm seeing. There are major dynamics that are taking place here. And I know that, like, that's just an example of what is also happening in our lives, in our personal lives. So this discussion about the tidal wave and it coming in and it bringing things to the surface, right? And I loved where it said, all your speed and constant readiness is falling apart. It doesn't feel the same way. For you have decided to awaken. Know that you will never satiate yourself going about doing what it is that you had done before. And isn't that true? How many of us were doing all the things, checking all the boxes and going crazy, unhappy, overworked, exhausted, you know what I mean? It's not going to serve us anymore. And I know that, I don't want to get too political with this discussion, but when COVID first came in, when the lockdowns first came in, some of the big messages that were channeled through the records were that there were going to be different levels of COVID that were going to keep coming back until we learn this lesson. It came in as a tidal wave. 2020 was a tidal wave. It came in, it shut us all down, it sent us home, it made us think about our lives, our relationships, what makes us happy, what doesn't, all of these things. And then the waters receded, right? But we went right back to normal. And so the waters are coming back. As we see the Delta, variants arising, as we see like masks coming back into play, these sorts of things, I very much believe it's because we haven't learned our lesson yet. And when I say that, it's not like God or the universe is out there being like shaking, its finger at us like, you need to figure it out. This isn't going to work. That's not what it is. It's just that it's time for this planet to elevate. It's time for us to elevate. It's time for us to awaken. And unfortunately, as humans, it's kind of like when your body starts getting sick, we'll ignore it until it kind of like explodes. And maybe you end up in the doctor's office, the emergency room, and they're like, yo, didn't you feel this pain in your back before it got to this point? You're like, oh yeah, but I was like too busy to come in. Oh, I just kind of kept ignoring it. We do that as humans across, like every area of our life. And so we have to be pushed to these limits where it's like, yo, like almost kind of slapped upside the head. Like, really? Do you want to keep living a life where you're running around like crazy, where you never have any time for yourself, when you never get to spend time outside in nature, with your kids, whatever the case may be, people you love? Is that really how you want to live life? Does money really make you that happy? We're not going to be able to exist the way that we did before. It's just not going to happen. It says like, this is a time for becoming aware of what the universe is trying to share with us. Like what we keep turning our cheeks in the other direction about. It's like, we are so convinced that we know the best way for us. We think we understand what's going on. We have no idea. We never had an idea. We never had control. Any of it. And that's what we're going to be reminded of very intensely this month. And I think this was like a wake up. Like if you aren't listening in these times, it's only going to get rougher for you. And it is. It's only going to get rougher. A lot of the things that I talk about on this podcast in regards to like how to take care of yourself, like how to stay grounded in the midst of all of these things, like how to place boundaries in your life around like, what you're reading on social media, like what kind of news you pay attention to, the people in your life, all of these things, like, do you have a daily spiritual practice? Because if you aren't doing these things and aren't practicing these things and aren't listening to what it is that's going on, and I'm talking about the wisdom that's coming to you inside of yourself. I'm not talking about anything that's coming to you like from the exterior world necessarily. Then it is going to get tougher. And that was really the message that like started coming through last year. I felt like towards the very beginning of the lockdown, it was just like, for me, I knew quickly that I had to put down some seriously strong boundaries around what I was going to let into my bubble, because otherwise I was just going to get caught up in it. And I can't be here on this planet and fulfill my mission and my purpose if I allow myself to get caught up in everything that's happening around me and in this world. And then, of course, like I mentioned before, with the cleansing of the tidal wave, it talks about this is a birthing cycle. And I'm going to talk about the Lion's Gate in a minute, but oh my gosh, like holy shit, are we stepping into a birthing cycle? It is huge, huge, huge. Basically, the first 2 weeks of this month, whatever kind of groundwork you lay will be your theme for the rest of the year. And then the second 2 weeks of the month are going to be asking you, or like showing you, giving you like picture perfect clarity around what is serving you and what is not serving you in your life. And that's really how the month is kind of broken down. And I'm being a bit general here, but you know, birthing, like it talks about, in the midst of it, it brings pain, but what is on the other side, right? It's like the storm and then the rainbow. Like goodness always comes after pain. And it's not like the universe wants to give us this pain. We bring this on ourselves because we choose not to listen. We choose not to have the spiritual practice until life gets hard. We choose not to take care of our bodies until they're broken down. And we have to like, you know, start pumping them full of medication and going to the doctor's office. Like we make these choices. We have to take responsibility for ourselves. We have to take responsibility for our lives. Nobody else is going to do that for us. And it's so important this month especially that we take responsibility for ourselves in the midst of this. Because especially the very first 2 weeks, the first half of August, man, paint a big picture. Paint a beautiful picture. Take steps, even if they're tiny. Even if like maybe you don't even think that they qualify as steps. Take them anyway towards the things that you want. Because I am not joking when I say all of the energy of this creative impulse will be with you in that. And I think kind of like one of the final reminders here before, of course, it shares the beauty of this, right? Is like, do yourself a favor and try not to distract yourself in the midst of this pain. If you are feeling pain, you know, throughout this month, if things are hard, if you start seeing things so clearly and it's like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? Like, try to stay with it. Try to not run from it. Try not to distract yourself. And this is not an easy one. I struggle with this on my own, but just do your very best, you know, and if 1 day, 2 days, whatever, you have to just come home and flick on some like TV to just like let yourself chill, do it, you know, but then like journal, go deep, talk to a friend, set up a video camera and talk to yourself, record a voice note, whatever it is that works for you. Talk about it, get it out, like think about it, ruminate on it, lift it up to the universe, ask for help. Ask for help. I'm amazed at the amount of people who, and I mean like, you know, I've always known God, so I've always felt like I had help. But whether you're someone who knows God or maybe doesn't believe in God, whatever the case may be, even if you don't believe, you have a whole team out there that wants to help you out. All you have to do is ask for help. Always and forever. You don't have to be perfect. You can be a total asshole actually and still ask for help, and they will still help you. They don't have egos like we do, and they don't judge us like we judge each other. It's just not how the spiritual world acts. And then, of course, what was really beautiful here is like life has so many gifts for you can't even imagine. There's a part of the Bible verse, and it's in, oh gosh, Ephesians. I should have looked this up. It's something that when I pray, I always include it because it talks about the kinds of blessings that God has for us. And it's huge. Okay, I grabbed my Bible real quick. For those who are like, you know, whatever with the Bible. I totally feel you. Don't worry. This is for any and everyone. You do not have to be a Christian because this is about how the universe is to us. This is in Ephesians 3:20. Typically when I go to buy a Bible for someone else, and I haven't done that for several years, but I used to quite a bit back in the day, there's a couple of Bible verses that I always look for to make sure that they're translated correctly, because there's so many different translations in the Bible. This is one of those verses. So 3:20. Now to him who the action of his power that is at work within us is able to carry out his purpose and do super abundantly, far above and over all that we dare ask or think, infinitely beyond our highest prayers, desires, thoughts, hopes, or dreams. And again, like this uses the word God and it talks about him as a pronoun. These are things that you can ignore. This is not what's important about this verse, because to me, God is love. And so whether that's God, goddess, nature, whatever, it just doesn't matter. But what is important is that the universe wants to do super abundantly, far over and above all that we could dare ask or think, infinitely beyond our highest prayers, desires, thoughts, hopes, or dreams. Isn't that beautiful? Whenever I pray, there are two things that I ask always. One, I say, thank you for blessing me far and above anything I could dare, hope, or imagine. I always say that. And I always say, thank you for covering me in favor. But the universe truly wants to be with us that way. But we have to make the decision to take responsibility for ourselves. We have to make those choices. And the universe does love us too much to do that, because it's not going to infringe on our free will. It's not going to do that, period. So you can have all the hopes and dreams, but you have to make the decision. You have to get out there. You have to put the time in. You have to say, yes, this is what I want, and start. And like I mentioned before, even if it's like such a tiny start that like you can barely even see it or even recognize it, it doesn't matter. That's okay. Do it. Do it. Because the universe wants to meet you there. But they won't do it for you. It's just not going to happen. I really loved this message this month. I really feel like it's powerful. I feel like it hit on so many just really important themes and things that I've been experiencing in my own life, that I kind of see. I typically start feeling into the energy of a new month, and like this one especially, I started feeling into the energy of August probably about a week and a half ago, and I'm actually recording this on August 1st. So, because the astrology for this month is huge, and this upcoming weekend, we are welcoming in the Lion's Gate, which happens to be on a new moon in Leo, in the midst of Leo season. My first real interaction with the universe in regards to energy was in a Lion's Gate. I mean, the first time I really experienced one, man, did it rock my world in a really good way. And the one that's coming up is a very, very good one. I'm honestly very excited about it. I've been getting all kinds of downloads about how I want to run my life, the things that I want to do, ideas for growing my business, growing my practice, like how to work with people differently, what I want to do with the collective, so many different things. Just downloads left and right. I mean, I've got a list on my phone that it's just been growing and growing and growing. And of course, I haven't had time to even start digging into it because I'm wrapping up something really, really huge in my life. And I'm going to be finishing that up this week, which is really going to be ushering in a new beginning for me, an epically new beginning. So, in regards to the astrology for this month, we have quite a few different things. Of course, the Lion's Gate, which is August 8th, and that's the new moon in Leo. We have a full moon in Aquarius on the 22nd, which that's the second full moon in Aquarius in the same, like, in Leo season. July, the very end of July, we had the first full moon in Aquarius. This one's going to be a lot kinder, a lot more kind of uplifting and hopeful and cheerful. It's also a blue moon because of the fact that it's the second one. But the science, or not the scientific, the astronomical, maybe. So what happens on Lion's Gate? Lion's Gate is when the planet, like, and specific pieces on the planet, like, line up directly with Sirius. And I'm not going to dive into this too deeply, but Sirius is one of the planets who had a major, major role in seeding planet Earth. And so they're very aligned with us, very connected with us. And on Lion's Gate, it opens up a portal directly with Sirius. And so depending upon where you're at on the planet, there's going to be different pockets of time that are going to be very strong for you. Because, of course, that portal hits at different times with, like, time zones and those kinds of things. So, here on the East Coast in the US, I believe it's, like, really close to when the new moon really goes into full effect. But to be truth, like, I'm not completely sure. During this time, it's like it's a big increase of cosmic energy. It just kind of supercharges everything, like, that's creative, manifestation energy. That's why here in the first 2 weeks of August, it's so crucial for you to, like, take steps towards whatever it is that you want in life. I mean, this could be a career, it could be a relationship, it could be, like, growing your family, it could freaking whatever. It's a great time to clean out your home, to really kind of, like, move some energy, to get rid of old things. And that's going to be the energy, honestly, for, like, the entire month, especially as we move into Virgo season. But the Lion's Gate is just, man, it is strong. And the fact that it's hitting on a new moon is new energy, new beginnings. It's very, very, very potent. We also have, on the 19th, Uranus is going retrograde in Taurus, which we're going to see some really unexpected, like, changes going on at that time, especially internally, but I think externally we're going to see this play out because Uranus in Taurus is like it's a big part of this year in regards to the astrological themes, and the fact that it's going retrograde is going to be really interesting. I'm not sure how that will manifest necessarily, but I would say patience is going to be required around that time of the month, especially. And kind of moving into, because that's, a couple days before really when we step into Virgo season. And Virgo is all about, like, systems and being efficient and organized and tying up loose ends and those kinds of things. So we're going to kind of be like, and Uranus is the rebellious, it's the rebellious planet. It's like, F you want me to go left, I'm going right. That's what I'm doing. And so it's going to be interesting to see how these energies kind of align. And the full moon in Aquarius, that's the fact that it's showing up a second time is really emphasizing community. Last month's theme was togetherness, and that was so important because of kind of all of the friction that was coming up and all of the different, like, just frenetic energy, It's like when we come together, we're able to get through things easier versus trying to do it on our own. Suffice it to say that astrologically this month is intense. And like my client said, she was like, aren't we going to get a break? And it's like, no, no, not really. I know that when you think about this, and even when I think about this, sometimes I get really exhausted and I get kind of annoyed. Sometimes I even get angry, depending upon, what time of the month it is. But we're living in really exciting times right now. Our planet is evolving. We are being called to step up, to raise our frequency, to start embodying ourselves, our hearts, to become a better planet. And that's going to, think of the state of the world right now. Like, holy crap, we have so much to fix. Pretty much like anything that you can think of, like it needs help, right? Any like segments, any topic, any like industry, like it needs help. It all needs help. And so that breaking down, that cracking open, it's just going to take some time. But we chose to be here. And the fact that you are here, the fact that you are listening to this means that you have everything in you to not only get through this time, but to succeed through this time, to become empowered, to find your own beautiful light to share. And I'm not all about like just love and light, like that's not real life. But I'm saying that, we're here for a purpose. And if we allow ourselves to get caught up in the fear, in all the conspiracy theories and all the bullshit, let's deal with what's happening right now. The conspiracy theories crack me up. It's like anyone can sit around and dream up all kinds of ideas. Let's deal with what we know now. And then if those things may become true, cool, we'll deal with them then. But guess what? For now, I got enough on my plate, yo. So, all right. Really just the last thing that I wanted to do here. I got a new deck. I picked up this really cool spirit animals deck the other day from the store. It's called Animal Spirits Knowledge Cards. And it's a very simple deck. It just kind of talks about it's got a brief description of the animal's power and symbolism in various cultures. So some of the cards actually have something that talks about what the animal is known for. Some of them not so much. But I love, first of all, animals are my favorite. If you've been listening to this podcast, they are perfect beings as far as I'm concerned. And so, I really have I have a deep relationship with animals. I've been going, I think I was sharing with you a minute ago, I've been having the most incredible downloads coming through as of late, just left and right, filling up lists with ideas and all these things. And last night I opened up my back door, which I have blue jays that love me, that I give them peanuts pretty much every day. I have animal friends out behind my house, squirrels, there's some finches, there's a couple of others. There was this big, huge, beautiful hawk, and it was sitting there right on the fence, and it was just looking at me. And we just communicated for a bit, and it was back this morning. And I looked up the hawk symbolism, and then there was a gorgeous vulture that was flying over earlier. It was right on top of us, and we saw when we were at the park, which and it was by itself, which you don't see vultures by themselves. That's very rare. But vultures, it's just, animals always speak to me in different ways. My guides know to speak to me through animals. So anyway, I decided to pull a card this month from this deck. And what I asked was, what is our spirit animal for the month ahead, for August? And it's really beautiful. I'm going to share the photo and kind of the card on social media And of course, if you're in the collective, I'm going to be sharing that tonight probably. But what I pulled was the heron. And the heron, if you're not familiar with them, like I live on the coast and there's a lot of swampy areas around here. And so I see them very often and I love them because you'll have all of these like especially at one of my favorite parks here. It's all green, super swampy. And then you have these beautiful, bright white birds. And any bird or any animal that is pure white has Christ consciousness. So they're very spiritual animals. They're pure. But the heron, so it symbolizes life, feminine energy, and renewal. And what it says, and there's some words here that I may not pronounce correctly. The heron is a bird of the water and is thus associated with feminine energy and regeneration. In ancient Egypt, the heron was the first transformer of the human soul after death. Because it was seen in flight over the fields when the Nile began to flood, it was associated with fertility and the renewal of life. In the Roman epic, the Aeneid, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that, the heron is again a symbol of renewal and is depicted rising from the ashes of the burned city of Ardea. It's a gorgeous bird. And I just feel like this was so perfect. As I mentioned kind of from the very beginning, the water, that regeneration, that renewal, that purification, the new beginning. That is what is happening this month. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Were the things that resonated with you? Did they align with what I shared? Whatever the case may be. I'm very, very, very excited for the month of August. It's kind of that month too where like the energy just tips, right? It's like where, the ball goes over like the halfway point and then it just falls flat on its face, and before you know it, it's Christmas and then it's New Year's and then New Year's here. This is a major time to get your bearings, a major time to find your solid ground, your firm footing, to get a clear picture of what it is you want to carry with you for the rest of the year and on, to really get crystal clear about what it is that you want. Please take the time to do this month. Try not to hurry. Try not to go too fast. You deserve this. Your life deserves this. And your impact on the world around you deserves this. All right. So thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure that you rate and leave us a review on iTunes. Subscribe to the show. It helps us to reach more people. And if you are interested in joining my Patreon community, you can check out the link, or you can sign up for my email list. They get updates on things that are happening. Promotions, events, podcast updates, whatever the case may be. My biggest heart, total love. And don't forget, when we invest in ourselves, the world benefits. Until next week.